Today is August 8th, 2024, and I'm here with Kari McCoy, a former Pekin Let's player who is here to share the history, legacy, and her personal stories about her time with the Let's. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Addie.
Starting off just a little bit about your start with softball. So where were you born and raised at?
Right here in Mapleton, and was raised in Mapleton and went to school, at Atlantic Bluffs.
What were some of your earliest memories of playing sports as a child?
A lot of playing, when I was really little, just, started off with my family. My family is very athletic, very sports oriented. And so, my dad started me very early, just in rec league, anything he could throw me into that girls could play. So.
And that's how you got your start in softball?
Yes, definitely from my dad.
Okay.
Throwing me in.
And what were your experiences like playing travel ball here in the area?
Wonderful. When I was playing, coming through, travel ball was, popular, but nothing like it was now, so I started kind of local travel, and then I went to play with some fantastic gentlemen in East Peoria, and I played with East Peoria, and then Milton Outlaws, and I had a coach named Rick Snar who was from Richwoods, who was wonderful. And back then we didn't have like all the facilities that we do now, so every weekend my mom would pack the car and we'd have to go up to Quad Cities or St. Louis. So we didn't have East Side, none of that around here. So it was definitely, travel every weekend for sure.
And what was your experiences then like playing for Atlantic Bluffs?
When I came through playing at Atlantic Bluffs, the experience was good. It was fun. We were not fantastic back then. We won a couple regionals. I think, one of the things I remember playing, we were playing regionals, we would play through, I think I pitched in a game that lasts like 24 innings, which I remember that. I remember playing in it, pitching in like an 18 inning softball game coming through. Playing with Nancy Myers. She had just started, watching her grow as we come through. So we've come a long ways, at Atlantic Bluffs now, but we were just average, when I was coming through, but it still was a good experience.
And kind of going back a little bit to your pitching career, how did you get started as a pitcher?
My dad took me up, I think back then we could start middle school softball in 5th grade. So my dad took me to tryouts, and Lloyd Walker, who really got me started in pitching, he says, anybody who wants to pitch, stick around. And so my dad's like, well, let's check it out, because he was, always into it. And so I was the only one who stayed, and it turned out being I was the only one who pitched. And so Lloyd Walker, taught me. He gave me lessons. My dad caught on a bucket for years out in the yard. And so Lloyd Walker really is the person who started me pitching. So.
And afterwards, when you're done with your middle school and high school career, you got to play at ICC. And what was that experience like for you?
It was awesome. I still think a lot about some of the girls that I played with back then. We were a lot of girls from, the area back then. I hear of a lot of girls, from out of state and stuff. But back then we were pretty local. I think we had one girl from Nebraska and a lot of girls. It was very cool going into the ICC because we had a lot of girls from like the local schools, and we all come together and made a fantastic team. We went pretty far both years, and playing for Lorraine was just amazing.
Yeah. And what did that mean to you to play for a legend like Lorraine Ramsey?
She is a legend. She was tough. She was hard, but she pushed you, the stories when we get together as girls and we tell about Lorraine are just, they're funny. They're amazing. I give a lot of my credit to some of my Division I play to her. She taught us a lot. I thought I knew how to be tough and mentally, in games, and she really just, took it to that next level. Some of those things I think, because my daughter plays now. I think a lot of that, I taught her to be tough, come from Lorraine. You know, she knew everything about the sport, knew a lot about pitching, and really could push you, which is awesome.
And you also mentioned at ICC that you guys won nationals one year. What did that mean?
My sophomore year, we won junior college nationals, and you know, really that was quite a, you know, mostly local girls. You know, I played with a pitcher from Limestone and one from East Peoria, and it was just amazing. I think we were out in Kansas, and you know, we went through it, and you know, you go out there. When we were back, we didn't know what to expect because we hadn't played a lot of these teams, and you know, to win it was just, it was amazing. And you know, what's even cool, just to give props back to Lorraine Ramsey, is the year that we won for softball, she had also won in basketball, coaching basketball that year too. So, you know, it's very cool. When I go back, I show my kids my picture hanging on the wall.
And before we kind of get into your Let's career, you also played overseas in Europe for some time?
Did. They put a team together and asked me to go, and we went over, we flew into Belgium, and what we were doing is we would play some games throughout like France, Holland, those types of things, and we would play some games, and then we did some camps for some of the younger kids over there. And then of course, you know, the coach that we had did, you know, tour us around. We got to see all the stuff, you know, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, all those wonderful things, and just kind of, you know, give back, like I said, do those clinics and things with the younger girls. And it was really cool. When we were over there, they put us in the paper, which we couldn't read because it was in a different language. And it wasn't in French, it was like in the Holland paper. So what is that, Dutch or something like that? Yeah. And so people thought we were a big deal, even though we weren't that big of a big deal. So it was pretty cool to go over there, and you know, the people coming to get our autographs and just see the kids.
It does sound like a fun experience.
It was very fun, you know, to see the culture, you know, learn softball. Like, I learned a pitch from over there.
Oh, cool.
Believe it or not.
What pitch was it?
It was like a change-up drop ball. It was, yeah.
I probably wouldn't be able to hit that myself.
Well, when she threw it at me, I couldn't hit it. So after the game, I went over and said, you got to teach me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now with your Let's career, how did you first get involved with the Let's?
I just went over and showed up to the tryout. You know, it was women's, and done with 18s, and I wanted to keep playing because I knew I was going to move on to Division I. So I went over and tried out, and they said, yeah, we want you to come play with us.
And when you started playing for the Let's, were you aware of the rich history that the team
I was
had?
not, but I think it was right after that, going into my sophomore year, Lorraine had brought someone to help coach at ICC. I think her name was Rudy. And so then I got to hearing all the stories about the Let's. Lorraine and Rudy would sit together, and Rudy liked to tell more stories, of course, than Lorraine. And so I really started to kind of look into it. And it was cool because I really started to come face to face with it. We would be at tournaments, and some older ladies would come up and say, you know, I used to be a Let. This is how cool we were, you know, and would want to tell me the stories. So it kind of came full circle, and, you know, kind of started researching some things about the Lets, and it was a pretty cool legacy to look into.
And you also played for Coach Reeder. What was it like to play for him?
You know, he was very easygoing. You know, it was women's. He had, you know, insightful things to say ever so often, and, you know, we just kind of showed up and played and won a lot of games, you know.
And what was the competition like for you guys?
It was good competition, believe it or not, back then. There was, women's was still kind of a big league back then, and so we had good competition. You know, the Hearts, I don't know if they're still around now. Are they still? But we would play the Hearts, and there was still quite a few tournaments that had a lot of teams playing in them, you know, St. Louis, a lot of areas. So the competition was still really good. Back then, Division I players and junior college players were still playing in the summer, you know, so it was good.
And were there any tournaments or games that you remember that stood out to you?
Not necessarily. There was a game that I think I pitched like a a no-hitter or something like that, and it made the paper, and they, you know, put some things out there about the Let's legacy, but yeah, nothing too major. Just a lot of the girls that I played with again in that league. You know, I remembered all of them, and then, you know, you go back to college and then you get to play against them, and you know, visit with them when you would play against them during college ball.
So kind of going into that, how would you describe the camaraderie on the team?
You know, women's ball was a little different. It kind of take you back then kind of to that next level, because you're up there. I had been playing at ICC, and now I'm starting to play with some Division I girls, you know, those types of things, and, you know, just the more aggressiveness, just to watch, you know, the dedication and talk about how much, you know, they're putting into it and working out, and everybody had the same goal. So it was very cool.
And what was the community support like at the games?
You know, it was awesome. We played there at the Pekin Park, and people would come, right? The stands would be full. I guess I didn't realize how the community looked at the Let's until I actually played a home game. And it was neat because a couple of family members of mine, their family had come, and they had been coming for years, and they were so excited that I was playing with the Let's. So, you know, it was always a full crowd.
And what does it mean to you personally to have been a part of the Pekin Let's?
It was just cool, you know, to follow in the footsteps with, you know, the Dieselettes.
Yeah.
They were very cool, and, you know, people like Priscilla Welch, you know, she was always highly talked about, even when I was there, you know, about how fast she was and what a great hitter she was, and just a fantastic player. And, you know, if you said, oh, you played for the Let's, people knew exactly who you were talking about. So, you know.
And that kind of goes into, what do you think has set the Pekin Let's apart from other softball teams?
Basically their history, you know, their history, dedication. They've had some great teams, you know, and some great people that's played for them. It's
kind of along the same lines, but do you believe that there's a legacy that the Let's have kind of left behind in the world of softball?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, like I said, softball was, you know, going, and there was teams, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And, you know, for those women, you know, to play back there and the Let's to be around for so long, and it definitely has left a legacy, especially in Pekin. You know, they definitely contribute, the Let's and Pekin together, for sure.
And going back, I know earlier we kind of talked about the rich history with the Let's and how women's majors was a big deal back when you played, but nowadays we've kind of seen a decline. And what do you think has led to that decline in women's softball?
Well, I when you say decline in women's softball, we're just talking about the women's league, because softball is just booming. You know, it's amazing, it's awesome to see. But the decline in the women's softball, I really truly believe, is because a lot of the Division I girls, a lot of the Division I teams don't want them playing in the summer. They want that break, you know, since they're basically playing year round except for those 2 months in the summer. And I think that's a big, large part of it, you know, giving those college kids a break. Once the kids, I found, you know, in some of my coaching too that I was doing, once the kids, you know, get to that certain age, especially after 18, it's, if they're not playing in college, then they're focusing on school and they're focusing on work and, you know, figuring out their path. So I think that clears a lot of the girls out of that women's league.
And we know that softball, like you said, it is booming right now, but what else do you think needs to be done to promote softball?
I think they're doing a good job. I mean, what else? I just think those key players that are wholesome people and come across, you know, as the life of the game, you know, peppy and having wholesome coaches that set a great example on camera for these kids to play for. And you know, you look at some of them, there was a blonde third baseman, now I can't remember, maybe she played for Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma?
There's a couple of them that are pretty good.
But anyway, and they just played with a smile on their face. I mean, that's a lot of it. just showing how it is fun and there is rewards in terms of, that competitiveness, bringing you into the real world. The competitiveness gets you your job, gets you your house, your lifestyle, and moving you forward. So.
And what advice would you give to younger generations who are maybe just now getting started with softball?
I would say, make sure you're still dedicated and having fun. Stay true to yourself. Stick with people and coaches that, are true to you. And, if you want to be good at it, be dedicated and put some time into it, for sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.